Welcome to the Philantrepreneur Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd, designed to offer tips, strategies, and insight to empower nonprofits and entrepreneurs with sustainable win-win solutions. The Philantrepreneur Show is sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, building capacity through education and professional services.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Victoria Boyd, president of the Galaxy Group and editor of the Philantrepreneur Journal, and my co-host, Heidi Anderson, founder of Credit Cares and president of Electronic Commerce International. We're always thrilled to bring you the Philantrepreneur Show, which airs every first and third Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard, daylight time now. Yes, we're in daylight. For all of our business-minded folks, the first quarter of 2014 has just ended. Oh, my goodness. I mean, did that go fast or what? Tax deadline is approaching for some of us, and we're in the midst of spring breaks. Kids are out for a lot of the colleges and some of the public schools. Easter's on the horizon. It's coming. And this year, time of year always sort of reminds me of renewals, what's new, what's coming up, blooming flowers, emerging programs. I know I always launch and do a lot of things in the spring. And speaking of new things, Heidi, I'm really excited for you, and I want to congratulate you on launching your dream, a new nonprofit called Foundation to Foster Empowerment. I'm so excited to be joining you next week for a board meeting. Please tell us more about it.
Oh, thank you, Victoria. I am so happy to finally take this vision of creating programs for kids that are aging out of the foster care program from my dream to reality. And I am so honored that you will be on our board and able to contribute your fabulous nonprofit management expertise to the project. I couldn't be more thrilled and blessed. Just to give some context to why I created this and why I feel it's necessary, every year an estimated 20,000 young people age out of the foster care system, which means they basically turn 18, they're now considered adults, and boom, they're out on the streets. Wow. And this is actually increasing every year. I actually read a statistic last week that just in Arizona alone, there's like 5,000. So I can't imagine if there's, that many more than here. But what the number is nationwide now must be more than 20,000. But
right.
Most of these kids have bounced from home to home, sometimes 8 to 10 homes while they're in foster care. They sometimes they've suffered abuse. They have no sense of family and have never felt like they belonged, let alone ever really felt loved. And, they're still kids. They're 18 years old. They need support, guidance. They need services. And some kids had a wonderful foster parent or a CASA, a court-appointed social advocate, that made all the difference in the world to them. But just a huge percentage did not. So, and studies show that without a lifelong connection to a caring adult, these older kids are left vulnerable to just really, a host of adverse situations.
Right.
I mean, it's hard enough to be a teenager with a loving family, let alone to be a teenager without any of that support around you. And, compared to other kids in the United States, those who age out of the foster care system are likely not to have completed high school or even received a GED. They often suffer from mental health problems from the abuse and neglect, and most are unemployed and live in poverty. Nearly 40% become homeless, and an astounding 30% of boys actually become imprisoned.
Wow.
So, the programs we will create with the Foundation to Foster Empowerment will not only bring basic life skills and education to these kids, but also the self-development and leadership training that will, help them not only to be a positive contribution to society, but also with the ability to create their own programs that reach back and help kids like themselves. So that's the focus of the foundation. And once again, I'm thrilled to have you on board. And this is a huge undertaking, and I understand our guest today is not only a noted and award-winning writer and communications expert, receiving the prestigious Accredited business communicator designation, but also a recognized nonprofit expert. Boy, I can't wait to get some tips from her.
Right. I've known Dr. Gillian Silver for many years. We both are faculty for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, continuing education, and we teach nonprofit management in the certification program. We have a lot of parallel interests, and I'm glad some things came across my desk and made me remember that I needed to have her on the show today. You know, we do management and leadership in the nonprofit sector, but she's also a prolific writer with more than an astounding 150 writing, editing, and project campaign awards to her credit.
Wow.
What many of our, I was like, whoa. What many of our listeners will find interesting is she served as vice president of corporate communication for a well-known company in the business sector, in the for-profit side, and responsible for internal and external communications, media relations, community affairs, and philanthropy, as well as activity evaluation and measurement. All of those things are really important to me, for sure. And with nonprofits and business, you need to be looking at that. So with this dual background, she should really be able to provide some philantrepreneur-style insight. Her current passion is helping to prepare nonprofits for the impending gap in expertise and continuity as baby boomers approach retirement. You know, when I saw that on her website, I said, wow, I just did some research on baby boomers. As usual, here I am going on and on. So we can jump right into our topic of communications, messaging, nonprofit development, and business. Let's meet and say hi to Dr. Gillian Silver, Vice President of Strategic Resource Consultant. Welcome, Gillian. Please let's hear some more about your background and how your passion brought you to the work that you do now.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you again for inviting me onto your show. I'm very excited to be with you.
Well,
Victoria,
we're quite honored. Yes, we're quite honored. Yes, please tell us more about yourself, how your background and where you got to be where you are right now.
Well, you provided such a thorough recap. I don't know if there's much I can say. Thank you very much. So gracious, Victoria. From the time that I was really very young, when I was a preteen, I got involved in nonprofit organizations, social and culture groups, art groups, education-related groups. I always had kind of an activist and engaged personality. I continued that passion and started channeling it when I entered into the professional work environment and really had the privilege as a communications professional to be the person who created those overtures and launched those alliances with nonprofits. Built philanthropy programs, was able to assemble the funding and the donations through the corporate arm to deserving nonprofits, and served in board positions for a variety of nonprofits across many areas. So I've always felt that it was necessary for people to be part of a engaged society, that there are so many people in need. There are so many nonprofit organizations that have the capacity to make such meaningful contributions. It's essential for everyone to find their niche and their own way of contributing. So I bridged it personally into my corporate work, and now my shift has become helping nonprofits to understand where they have potential for growth and for strategic planning so that they're more efficient organizations. Because, unfortunately, the challenges for nonprofits continue to intensify. It doesn't become easier for them to achieve their missions.
That's
right.
Right.
And as Victoria mentioned, you address the issue of preparing nonprofits for the baby boomer gap. As those of us, I was born in '61, so I think I'm considered to be one of the last of the baby boomers. And,
yes, sure.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I think business may face some of the same issues. What do you feel we should all keep in mind to prepare for this.
Well, Heidi, let me go ahead and clarify the generations for just a moment also, if you don't mind, because everyone uses in popular culture the term baby boomers, and many people don't understand the number of decades that are combined in that group, and that does create some demographic challenges. So technically, it is from the World War II period, approximately 1947, to about 1962 to 63. So you're talking about many different eras in terms of business and life experience that have been grouped under this one demographic label. And the challenge that we have is that this year, a large group of what we consider the youngest or the cusp baby boomers are turning 50, while there are many people who are extremely active in industry and in nonprofits who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. So this large group of individuals spans almost 4 decades of time, and they do constitute the leadership of today's nonprofits. So when we look ahead and we forecast what's happening to our country, not in terms only of an aging population or perhaps an increasingly disabled and diverse society, we also need to look at the impact on organizational leadership, because there's a wealth of intellect and depth and background that is possessed by the generation of baby boomers who are currently at the helm of nonprofits. So what will be happening in the next 10 to 15 years, according to the research, is that we're going to see a projected gap, a loss of that intellectualism, that experience, that on-the-ground background that these individuals possess. And those nonprofits are going to be in need of a new next generation of leaders, whether that comes from today's younger baby boomers or it comes from Gen X or even the millennials. But some of the research is saying that there will be anywhere from 110,000 to 120,000 nonprofit leadership roles that will be part of this vacuum. So we really have to give thought to continuity of operation. Who are we going to cultivate to ascend through succession planning into the level of executive director, or who are we going to cultivate to be part of our board of trustees? And what kind of staff members are we going to be able to grow so that their development will make them eligible for promotion? So it's a really large issue when you look at the number of organizations that currently are reliant on this really deep and rich and multifaceted experience. Because it's not just their professional experience, it's their life experience, it's their problem-solving experience. All of that may not be available to nonprofits as an asset in the future. So we have to plan for transition, and we have to cultivate those really dynamic skills that may not be present in junior-level staff members today, or may not be available as more people don't necessarily have the economic luxury of becoming involved in nonprofit volunteerism.
Right. Some of the points and issues that you talk about, just the whole term leadership makes me think of, are we training and developing intentional leaders, or leaders with that live a legacy of their leadership? Are they taking on a role of being a leader by not just taking the helm, but teaching those people under them how to be leaders also? And I think that's an important element. Me working in nonprofits, I know how important it is to develop nonprofit leaders, because they are different. They have to think just a little bit differently. And how can businesses or entrepreneurs support or partner with organizations to help build leadership in nonprofits?
Victoria, you bring up a really pertinent point, and it was so beautifully articulated. I think that many times we call ourselves or even refer to others as leaders when they're managers.
Right.
To be a genuine leader, it needs to come from a place of character and integrity. and you have to be others-directed. There are so many really powerful ways of describing what leadership is, but one statement that I always keep going back to is that leadership is achieving through and with others. So the heart of that idea is that a leader has to cultivate talent. A leader has to be invested in someone else's development. So I think people who gravitate toward nonprofits and even people who are entrepreneurs in a small business setting recognize that as talented, as driven, as type A as they might be, you can't shoulder all the work yourself. You need to have a team that is working with you and walking in unison toward that really large vision. And one of the challenges that we have in nonprofits is the volume of work has been so demanding. We have the fundraising burden. We have the concurrent obligation of providing really meaningful programs and services that have a substantial impact on the community. And we have this constant challenge of trying to bring new volunteers into the system to help us facilitate the delivery of those services and programs. You really have to be a leader who is diversified in their approach. You have to have multiple hats on your head at the same time. And it becomes challenging. From a resource standpoint, we have very limited money and very limited time. And we talk in this arena so much about time poverty, but when you don't have enough time to take care of the urgent matters every day, how do you look ahead? How do you take that visionary long view and say, I really need to focus on succession planning, on creating in this young employee a dynamic contributor who can one day manage the budget of this organization, or who can be grown into a services or program director. We don't always do that because it feels as if it's a luxury to us, and even though we realize it's essential, it's not our top priority right now. So that is an issue even for corporations, but it's a huge problem in nonprofits because we are so focused on the immediate. Another connection I think is really vital, and this is something you and I chatted about a little bit, is that with a nonprofit organization, their vision is never compact. It's always aspirational. So a third sector organization wants to do these really magnificent, ambitious things. They want to cure the world of hunger. They want to eradicate domestic violence. They want to ensure that no child ever stumbles in school and realizes their own ambition. How does a nonprofit ever fully address a huge vision? How does it ever fully meet the scope of its objectives? So while we're trying to do these remarkable, ambitious things, we also have the business demands that are needed to keep our doors open, to keep the money flowing into projects, to ensure that we're making impact in a transferable and substantial way so that those in need benefit. So it is tough. It's very, very difficult for the nonprofit leader to be able to invest in the organization's future at the same time that they're being the steward of today's activities and priorities.
It's amazing that you say that's exactly my topic on Friday. I'll be speaking, both of us will be speaking for the U.S. Green Builders, and I'm talking about the three paths, the internal and the external measurements of success that nonprofits are unique, that they have to measure. It's just not one, profits and things like that. And you really, expounded on that whole concept beautifully. Wow.
Well,
thank you for all of that.
Yeah, because when you put it in that context, it does sound very overwhelming, especially, for somebody like me who's actually just starting a nonprofit. But having been an entrepreneur for several years and a business owner, it's like, to me, you just break it down into smaller parts. and you go, okay, I'm going to start with this community. I mean, yes, I want to help all the foster kids in the world, but I'm going to start in Glendale, Arizona, and I'm going to create a program there, and it's going to make it a duplicatable program, and that is a real challenge, I think, for me or people that are entrepreneur minded is, oh my God, I have to do this all myself, and it is really learning to communicate and attract other people from the community that care about the same thing, and allow them to help and delegate and accept their help, and let them make some mistakes, because that's how they are. That's how you let your employees or people that you're teaching to lead or to take over for you eventually, to overcome, instead of just completely smothering them and micromanaging them. And nonprofits are really important to a community, and can you expand on how nonprofits being important to community, how does that correlate to business growth?
Heidi, first of all, I wanted to say I really appreciated your point, because I think that your story is very much like that of many nonprofits and many small business owners. It is passion that directs us and that energizes us. And because we are bringing the very best of ourselves to what we want to accomplish, sometimes it's very difficult setting priorities. Sometimes it's difficult saying, this is what's reasonable and achievable and what I can do now, and not tackling everything. So it is difficult when we supervise members of our team to not have really outrageous expectations. Because we are just here to have impact, and it's so important to us to do something that is valuable and to show that we're making that proverbial difference. Nonprofit organizations have a lot that they can learn from the business setting about supervising, about helping people to grow within their jobs and to bring their own talents forward. We don't want to overpower them, because our understanding of our vision and our mission is so exact that we don't give other people the chance to be creative and to contribute and to help this organization form. So I didn't want to let that point go by, because you are at this really exciting stage of launch. But you brought up a very pertinent point. We can't smother our team members as we try to move them toward this goal. So how does this help business? I think that was the question that you had first directed toward me before I went off on this little area.
Yeah, well, how does it correlate to business growth in the community where the nonprofit is existing?
Well, the idea, and I'll go back to the word that Victoria used previously, the idea of a gap is one that's very significant to nonprofits, because nonprofits are trying to provide a solution for things that are not naturally met in the corporate world or through the government and its programs. So by partnering with small businesses in particular, you are bringing the strengths of both systems forward. So nonprofits have the opportunity to gain good image and reputation through affiliation with a sound, well-operated nonprofit. And the nonprofit, through that alliance, has the ability to create programs for the community that have a further reach, that address the needs of a greater number of constituencies. When you bring the partnership into play, sometimes we refer to it as a cause-related marketing partnership. Sometimes we talk about it as maybe a signature sponsor. The business has an opportunity to kind of reframe how it is seen by its customers and suppliers and other important markets, other important publics. And the nonprofit has a chance to possibly gain this larger group of volunteers and people who will speak in glowing terms about the nonprofit's work and what they're accomplishing. So if you bring the right people together, everybody has mutual gain. And it may lead to the company discovering new ways in which they can create profit. It may lead to new introductions that they gain because of their common support and interest in the nonprofit. It may lead to greater opportunities for employee development because they gain skills that they wouldn't necessarily gain on the job, but because they're part of doing a 24-hour marathon and they need to understand logistics and they have to understand how to negotiate a contract, they're getting that background and they're bringing it to play in everything that they do professionally for their organization. So I think that it really is a wonderful symbiotic relationship because it makes for a stronger organization and it also makes for a stronger community. So the business and the nonprofit both gain some very remarkable strengths out of that combined effort.
Absolutely. I know you brought up the term cause marketing, and
yes.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about messaging and communication, and communication is one of your expertise and strong points. And cause marketing is now also referred to as meaningful marketing or impact investing, but it all has to do with the message, the language that might be using. So as a communication expert, what are some of the elements that are present in a strong message for business or nonprofits?
I think that there is a tremendous amount of commonality. It comes from clearly stating what you do, what your area of expertise is. So for a small organization, for the entrepreneur, it's important for you to be able to have what we sometimes refer to as that 30-second elevator commercial. You have to be able to quickly encapsulate what you do and why it's distinctive and how you bring value so that a potential customer or client knows why they want to turn to you and understands that they can have confidence in your expertise. For a nonprofit, it's a little bit more complicated because, again, going back to that idea of that really overarching vision, how do we talk about this very ambitious platform of a world without cancer, a world in which no child is hurt or no person is hungry? We need to drill it down and start speaking about the very specific ways in which we achieve the work. So in a company, you can say, here are the services that we provide, and you can break them out into a couple of bite-sized bullets. Nonprofits have to do the same thing, but they also have to show impact. And I love that you use the word impact as the extension of cause-related marketing, because, Victoria, one major criticism, as I know both you and Heidi are well aware of, and as our listeners probably have understood so clearly, nonprofits have a very difficult time showing that impact, showing that they've really been moving the needle and that they're productive. So whenever something can be converted into statistics, whenever you can create what's a proof point, whenever you can show that the world was enhanced because you did X, now you start speaking in a way that's very clear and with conviction, and it helps others to make that strong connection between the organization and its activities in the community. So for-profit organizations have that advantage because they're always thinking about showing a potential client exactly what outcomes can be achieved. And they have to make a pledge and support that pledge. But with nonprofits, we're always going to have a larger population to serve than we will ever be able to physically reach. So when you're looking at problems that get larger all of the time, you have to find a way to narrow in and show, and we always use the word transparent, show in a very transparent way, these are the number of meals that were served. These are the number of children who participated in the after-school program. These are the number of animals who received sterilization. If you don't convert it into a quantifiable, real standard, there's always going to be a question about whether you used your funds correctly, whether you have made that meaningful impact, and whether you deserve future support.
And it's also about having a good story. So celebrate.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, because you'll be able to tell your story and come from the heart and still pull in the statistics, because if you just speak in statistics, people, you know, so you have to have that delicate balance of heart and heart and numbers. But
you're absolutely right, Heidi. I mean, that's what we call combining the cognitive and the emotional appeal. It's actually a persuasion strategy. But the challenge is that nonprofits have always been really good about pulling heartstrings and creating that point of connection on a personal level. They've sometimes been weak in making their point exact and making it numerical. And business has the strength naturally of being able to talk in these quantifiable terms, and they can't always qualify it and soften it and say, here's how your business will change. Here's how this program will expand the way you are viewed within your environment. So they both have strengths, but it's interesting. They're polar opposite strengths. Yep. Business can often infuse more heart in what they say, and nonprofits could stand to infuse more defining points and numbers in showing what they do.
And the point of the Philantrepreneur is building those relationships. That was a great segue. We're going to have to take a quick commercial break right now, but we will be right back. More from Dr. Silver.
Hey, are you a small business owner like me who wants to make a charitable contribution and needs easy access to charitable giving sources that you can automate for your business for free? Then I invite you to visit www.credit-cares.com. They have charitable giving options using their innovative merchant platform that helps nonprofits raise money and helps merchants make contributions at no additional cost to them using the products and services of Electronic Commerce International. Our giving options are easy to set up for small business. So if you have a business entity, we can donate in your business name. Go to www.credit-cares.com and see how you can make a difference every day by doing what you already do. Go to www.credit-cares.com and fill out the form or call 855-782-2737 for more information on how your business can be a difference maker in your community.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to go right into the Philantrepreneur show tip. Every show we like to offer a tidbit of news or advice for our entrepreneurs and nonprofits. Today's tip continues on messaging and zooms in on targeting a prime audience. There was a bit of discussion earlier on the baby boomer effect. With approximately 76 million boomers, at some point they should be considered an ideal client. Do you know how to attract and keep their attention? Nonprofits, did you know that baby boomers are currently the most generous population segment? Entrepreneurs, did you know that baby boomers want and will invest in themselves and future 2-to-1 over any other generation? Do you know how to craft a message to appeal to their work ethics, goals, and standards? Do you use a medium that they understand and are comfortable with? All of these are important aspects when creating marketing or donor appeals for the baby boomer generation. They are a strong market that warrants special attention.
The Philantrepreneur is dedicated to your success. Visit thephilantrepreneur.com to find and explore a wide range of services and resources. Register and receive benefits such as training, early bird discounts, and the Philantrepreneur Journal, a nationally distributed bi-monthly digital publication serving everything Philantrepreneur, filled with tips, strategies, and resources to support your goals. Need more marketing exposure and have community impact? The Philantrepreneur is proud to offer Ads for a Cause, where 10% of your marketing purchase goes directly to charity. Contact us today to place your ad. Increase your reach in a professional digital publication or radio spot. It's a great marketing tool to send, post, or share in a variety of formats. Deadlines are on a rolling basis, so don't miss being included in the next publication. Visit thephilantrepreneur.com and click the Journal Marketing Ads tab today. Mention this show and get a 10% discount. www.thephilantrepreneur.com.
Well, welcome back, our special guest, Dr. Gillian Silver, VP Strategic Resource Consulting. First of all, we're getting pretty on in the show. We're running a little bit over, which is fine with me. I just want to make sure that Dr. Silver has a few more minutes for us, and so we can go forward, or do we need to reschedule a whole nother show?
No, I'm happy to stay with you, Heidi. Thank you.
Perfect. So what is on the horizon for nonprofit organizations and their leadership?
Well, looking ahead, I think it's a great opportunity to start reaching out to baby boomers, both at the younger category level and the mid-level, because there's opportunity for recareering, and for many people who might have been involved in boards as volunteers to gain some very critical skills and possibly transition into staff positions. There are wonderful employment opportunities. And, think about the dynamic combination of professional and personal attributes that these individuals provide as a resource. So nonprofits could do some pretty targeting development and recruitment.
And we've talked about developing...
I was going to say something about Victoria's book, The Wealthy Teacher, like what's next, retiring from, a life of teaching is like, well, it doesn't mean your life is over and you're just going to be retired and sitting and watching soap operas all day. You can actually take all that wonderful, valuable knowledge that you've gained, whether in business or as an employer, whatever you've done over the years up to that point, and bring it to a nonprofit in a really wonderful, positive, powerful way.
Absolutely. It's repackaging or repurposing all of that wonderful intellect and problem-solving ability and helping a nonprofit that doesn't necessarily have the financial resources to hire people with that background and that preparation. So I think that that's something that really is essential for the third sector to consider as they look forward to this leadership gap. As people leave from a career of activity and involvement, there are others that can be prepared to step into those roles and who may bring, from a business perspective, a very different operational paradigm, which is very important. I mean, Heidi, one of the challenges with many nonprofits right now is that the traditional pathway for ED development, for executive director development, is that they're coming in from masters in counseling or from sociology backgrounds or psychology. Many of them haven't had financial management classes. They've not worked hands-on with a budget. They have not dealt with some of the issues that people in the business setting struggle with. So an entrepreneur, conversely, has to do it all and become a jack or a Jill of all trades and learn very quickly on the job, where nonprofits have relied on their trustees and board of directors to compensate when they haven't necessarily had the skill set inside or in-house. So in the future, if nonprofits are going to be able to deal with more public scrutiny and possibly greater legislation from the IRS, they're going to have to become very efficient and very, very well structured. And those are lessons that can be taught by the business community and by the infusion of experienced business individuals in full-time and volunteer leadership roles. So nonprofits have so much to gain, just as businesses have so much to gain, if we're eager to learn from each other and to transfer that knowledge.
Absolutely. I mean, you really have wrapped up all of the last three questions that we were going to ask you about what skill sets are needed, the backgrounds, what tomorrow's leaders, but preparation. So you're really advocating that entrepreneurs, businesses really come together and work and combine some of the skill sets either to work in a nonprofit, support them, or help guide them and teach them, train them, support them in gaining some of those skills that are needed on the business side, and vice versa, let some of the attributes from the nonprofit sector rub off on the entrepreneurial small business side so that they can all become philantrepreneurs. How about that?
It really is about building the right team, creating the right players for the team and like I said, leading them, coaching them properly. Gillian, you certainly have an expansive amount of expertise and insight to offer with your background in the corporate and nonprofit sectors. Tell us more about how our listeners can get in touch with you, because you've shared a lot, and I'm sure that there's going to be people with questions that want to get more from you. So share the best way to contact you and anything else you would like to share.
Well, thank you, Heidi. That's very kind of you. The most direct way is through my email, gsilver@strategicresource.com. I'm brilliant on email. I live on email, as I mentioned. But since you gave me the opening, Heidi, I would like to just return very briefly to the point that you and Victoria were making about communication and messaging. It is absolutely crucial for both small businesses and for nonprofits to tell their story in an exact and powerful way. We can't take for granted how much influence we have when we speak with that enthusiasm and that conviction, but we have to do it with clarity. We have to make it sensible and relatable to the person that is hearing that message. So being very conscientious about the way we express what our organization is and how it accomplishes its work is an area that we should always be constantly reviewing. And it should be evolving. It should be changing because it has to be pertinent to every person that we reach out to. So in businesses, we think about the different groups of services and the clients that might avail themselves of those services, and we create those pitch points. In nonprofits, we have to do the same thing. We have to figure out a way to speak very specifically to that client, to that patient, to that beneficiary who walks in and is participating in an intake form and trying to figure out if we can help them and how we can help. And we have to speak in a very specific way to that potential corporate donor who might partner with us. And we also have to shift the message so that it is powerful and engaging for that talented individual we hope to recruit and bring in under our umbrella. So I think it always comes back to communicating in a very precise way, but thinking about the what's in it for me component for whoever that recipient is. But if we don't know our story, it doesn't matter how enthusiastic we are, no one will really understand and embrace and move on that story. So thanks for letting me revisit that point.
I want to really thank you, Gillian. I mean, you have brought such insight. Wasn't she a wonderful guest? And would you like to be
absolutely.
a guest? With a great project to share? Are you a philantrepreneur? Drop us a note at thephilantrepreneur.com. The 2014 schedule is filling fast, so reach out today. Visit www.thephilantrepreneur.com and send us a note to be our next guest. Well, it's been another great show. So this is Victoria Boyd and Heidi Anderson saying thank you for joining us. Mark your calendar and join us again Wednesday, April 16th at 8 a.m. for the Philantrepreneur Show. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Philantrepreneur Radio Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd. Get involved. Follow us on Facebook and other social media outlets. If you wish to share comments or suggestions or appear as a guest on our show, visit www.thephilantrepreneur.com. Contact Victoria Boyd. Email her at theboyd@thephilantrepreneur.com. The Philantrepreneur Radio Show is a production of and sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.